I want to start just by saying a couple words about an organization that we're privileged to work with at SBNA and Brooks Adams Research, Smith Senior Living. Smith is a 104-year-old community, if I remember correctly, and I was really proud of them for being a 104-year-old organization who was among the very first to adopt Life Plan Community. So I thought I'd just show you a couple things. It is front and center on the homepage nav for their website. They've had their Smith Scholars session on planning for a life that you love, featuring how to live in a life plan community. And they're using it very thoroughly in their introduction of all their materials, not immediately running out and reprinting everything, but as things come up and as things are created, they're creating everything with life plan in mind. So now I want to welcome and interview several people who have, I think, really led the charge with life plan communities. The first of those is Sharon Jessup from LCS.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. I have some specific questions for Sharon, and you know what? I'm going to let you take that.
Multitask.
Yep. So Sharon, in 10 words or less, why did LCS decide to adopt Life Plan?
I gave this some thought last night, and I have quotes from some of our leadership, and I think it's 14 words. I just counted.
All right, we'll let you go with that.
It's a consumer-directed change, and that was the key. Represents an evolution in our product, and that we wanted to be a part of that.
Great. That's a pretty good job in 14 words. If you guys have a lot of communities, Sharon, how many?
In the division I work in, 74, but total in the organization, over 130.
So over 130 communities. How did LCS communicate the life plan decision, and how did your C-suite play a role in that communication, supporting it?
So first, this is an actual quote from our president, Joel Nelson, and they were early adopters, and so it was a real opportunity for us. It didn't make it hard for us in the field. I work with the communities every day. So just so that Joel says, LCS welcomes the shift in language from continuing care retirement community to life plan community. It's in keeping with our long-term perspective by letting us prepare for the next generation of seniors. This language will draw them to our communities rather than turn them away. We are implementing Life Plan Community with full support corporate-wide. So that actually made it somewhat easy for us. And we're about having people join us and join us in the experience. So why not get something that's going to be relevant to them?
So you got a lot of top-down support.
We did.
How do you all see through your organization this process unfolding, and how long do you think it's going to take you?
I was actually at a community last night at a board meeting, so I have a good example, and it's really going to take as long as it takes. We've communicated to them. First, Joel sent a memo out to all of us that are providing community support, and we've actually got a 3-phase rollout. So internally and communicating to your boards of directors, communicating to the leadership in the community. And then you've got to go through, we've got CCRC on everything. So it's on name tags, it's on signs, it's on your website. I saw that one's already changed it. So we've got to go through a pretty extensive materials audit and look even under every piece of paper on every desk that it's out there. And then finally to the external marketplace, how do we communicate that? And for us, the time, I have some communities like the one that you just showed, Sharon, that are ready to go, but it's really the timing. To get the most out of it, how does it fit for that community? And the important thing for us at Life Care Services is we want to support communities in making the change, we recommend the change, but we're not kind of putting our hands in their back, making them do it at a certain time. The community I'm working with, and at a board meeting last night, we're going through a rebranding. So it makes sense to package this all together as they consider a name change. They're doing a lot of construction and updating their amenities. Why don't we wrap Life Plan into that and get the most out of it at that time? So for them, it may be toward the end of this year.
Yeah, and I would think for new communities, they'll start out with Life Plan, and that's going to raise the bar. You know, if you're competing with a new community in your market area, you're going to have to change faster, I think, because they'll raise the bar.
Right.
So obviously there are regulatory issues here. You know, most of the legal entities that regulate CCRCs use the word or life plan communities use the word CCRCs. How do you all at LCS see that unfolding?
I think what we've talked about is in our disclosure statements and in residency agreements, obviously we've got to keep the CCRC language in there, but also make a change to add life plan and to put words in there that we have changed it to life plan as the consumers have directed us to do so and support their decision. So, and hopefully the regulatory bodies will catch up to us. And we're already hearing that we're getting some traction, I hear, in North Carolina. I was in Maryland last night, so Maryland's usually a little bit slower, but hopefully we'll catch up as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks very much. I think next is Chris Keyser, President or CEO of Lenbrook in Atlanta, Georgia. Chris, before the change to Life Plan, did you all use the word CCRC at Lenbrook?
We did. I think the question is, did we use it successfully? And not in all cases. I think we had very limited use of it successfully around regulatory. We are a CCAC CARF accredited organization, so that obviously tied into some prospects and consumers. But I think it was more to us more like a SIC code, an industry code that we would use.
Right.
We would never use it in the term of any kind of communication or discussion.
So it wasn't a marketing sales tool for you?
Not for us.
You know, Brenda Schreiber's not here with us today, but Mather Lifeways has gotten a lot of flack in the market. They've gotten a lot of teasing about a word that they coined called repriorment. And they define that as the reprioritization of life among people who are looking at retirement. You all coined a similar phrase, I think, didn't you?
We did. I was actually with Mary Leary last week, and we were talking about that very instance. And the term flack, you can often get flack around any kind of marketing campaign. But we had a term that was Lenbrook and its inspirement community. And the thing that I find most interesting about that is it started out truly as a marketing campaign to have conversations with prospects. But slowly it started making it into the operations side. It ended up over the front entrance of our door, ended up on our bus. Of course, as soon as we put it on our bus, we immediately stopped the campaign. But it bred other names that then even made it into our goals as an organization. And I think it's most prominent in the fact that a couple years ago, we realized that if we wanted to be successful, we had to recruit prospects and consumers that lived our mission and our goals. So we started using the word inspirement or engaged to really try to flush out who were the right consumers. So we had always been looking at how to recruit the right associates and employees, but we realized to be successful, we also had to recruit the right prospects. And words like that really do have meaning to them.
Yeah, we all definitely are singing on that song sheet about language. How does your team feel about life plan as a term?
The term life plan to us, I think going back to the term CCRC, I think it was a very logical and accurate description. I'm an accountant by trade, so I love words like that. But at the end of the day, it was a term that really just our management team embraced. And as we move forward, the term life plan community seems to have some emotional resonance to it. And so we have started looking down that term and really just having conversations around the words that are in life plan community.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think you have a couple of slides maybe showing how you're rolling this out, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more how you rolled it out internally as well as with the public. But if you click forward, I think there are a couple of really beautiful examples of how you all have rolled this out publicly too.
Great. Now I'd actually like to save that because I
Okay,
think
we'll save it.
I think it is twofold. I think there's a soft rollout and then a hard rollout. And the hard rollout really follows the marketing campaign. I want to kind of save that for the end based on a comment we've received. But on the soft side, we did take it to we took it to our management team. We talked about the concept. We took it to our board of directors as they walk hand in hand with us as we implement our strategy. But probably the most meaningful rollout we've had are with our residents. Every week we meet with a small group of residents. We call them our community chats. And we start the whole exercise around working towards some appreciative inquiry, which is a nice way of saying, let's take stock of everything great in our lives so that we can have a really productive conversations about the opportunities in front of us. And we start out that conversation asking them 3 questions generally. And this year, as we've started our community chats and with the rollout of Life Plan, we've actually changed the questions to start spurring that type of conversation around the words. So one of the questions we ask is, how do we create impact in your life, or how do you create impact in other people's life? We will also talk about the plan around the fact of, how did you get to Lynbrook? How has Lynbrook been part of your plan as you move forward? And we always have a big conversation about community. What makes you proud to be in our community, or what makes you proud of our community? So we've started to build in the words as a part of the conversation, and I think that's the hard part, because as you mentioned, LCS is obviously a big organization. They don't want to push down everything. Well, we're a small organization, but we don't want to push down the meaning even to our residents. They have very strong opinions about what they want to be or don't want to be.
That's an amazing and really innovative way to approach it, I think, to incorporate those 3 words like that in your Appreciative Inquiry program. That's great.
Thanks. When we started the community chats, one of my fellow management team said, "Are you crazy? You want to bring residents around to talk about what's on their mind?" But through this use of appreciative inquiry and just starting to talk about words that are meaningful to them, we've had some really good conversations. It's been a lot of fun. So the hard rollout, I just wanted to show you all. This is a marketing campaign speech that talks about your life, your plan. And then it goes through how your life, your plan fits within our community of Lynbrook. To us right now, we look at the Life Plan movement, Life Plan community movement, really as a differentiator. We know we probably have 6 to 12 months before everybody else is going to latch onto it. So for us right now, this is a great differentiator for us. But I want to show you this. This was Lynbrook's first ever billboard that we put up. We've never had one, never thought about putting one up. This seemed to be the right opportunity for that. And I was at a board meeting last month where a board member said, "I was driving down the street and I saw the new billboard and it was electrifying." I said, "Really? A senior living billboard that is electrifying?" That's certainly a big step. But that's generally the response we have, and it's very simple, as you can see. It's just your life, your plan, experience, the Lynbrook difference. So I do think it's bringing a level of enthusiasm and conversation that we just haven't seen around our field.
That's fantastic. Do you see any obstacles, Chris?
Absolutely. I think the first is, we've already mentioned, the regulatory obstacle. It is written into the Georgia State Code that we are a continuing care retirement community. So it'll take a little while for that to catch up. But it's a little bit like doing business as. We can call ourselves anything we want to, as long as we draw it back into the regulation. And I think also is market confusion. We can't go so far out there that people don't understand when they're shopping for CCRCs that we're one of the folks that they should look at. But we are different because we prescribe to the Life Plan community moniker. So we're trying to be careful with that, but I think that those obstacles over time, the conversation will change and we'll get there.
So one last question for you. You obviously made an early decision and you're going all in with this, and I think it's great. There are probably some people out here, and I know there's some people who'll see this video that may be undecided. What kind of advice would you give them?
Great. So glad you asked that question. I've been in this field for a little over 25 years, and I've never been able to describe what I do for a living at a party. If I say I work at a retirement community, it's going to be a very short conversation. I usually underwhelm them. They usually think cocoon. And they really don't understand any of the passion or desire to serve this field. If you use the term CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community, you'll throw out a word they don't know. You'll impress them, but does it really engage them in any way? So I actually look forward now to these conversations. Or what do? Well, I work in a Life Plan community. I can pick and choose which words I piece together to describe the impact we make on folks' lives. But it really comes down to that. It's the why that we're all in this field, and it finally gives us a chance to talk about that. So my suggestion would be to try it out. When somebody asks you that very uncomfortable question we all have to deal with, try out these words and see if it resonates with you and the folks you're talking to.
Thank you. I think that's great advice. Next is Doug Motter from Homestead Village. Did I say that right? In Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Doug, I have a question for you in particular because I believe I've been told that you have a personal philosophy about names in general.
Well, I think that sets the bar high. I'm not sure I can even live up to that, but oh, there's pictures of Homestead Village. This is exciting for me to see what's on the slides. It's great. Well, first of all, I want to say, just to start out, I'm celebrating an anniversary on Saturday. I've been a licensed nursing home administrator for 30 years. I was the youngest nursing home administrator licensed in Massachusetts. I was 9, so it's pretty exciting. But way back then when I was young and became a licensed nursing home administrator, nursing homes were called nursing homes or convalescent homes. So just in my career, I have seen the nursing home name change from those terms that we shy away from now to the famous nursing and rehabilitation center that was very popular in the 80s and the 90s, to health centers, and now recently, the idea of households or small houses. If you think about 30 years ago, if someone had the idea of calling a nursing home or a skilled nursing and rehabilitation center a small house, what would people think? But names change because what we do changes. And so for Homestead Village, 5 or 6 years ago, we were Homestead Village Retirement Community. And we didn't like that term retirement. We were already hearing that's not a good term to have in our name. So we had enhanced independence and dignity in our mission statement. We changed our name to Homestead Village Enhanced Senior Living. We weren't alone in that. In Lancaster County, where we're located, probably a third of the communities have changed their names. Most of them have changed their names to communities. Willow Valley communities, Landis Home communities, Mennonite Home communities. Regionally, in Pennsylvania, 2 of the largest multi-facility organizations changed their name, Presbyterian Senior Living, and then my favorite, the Presbyterian Home in Philadelphia, changed their name to Presby Inspired Life, which is just a great, I thought, what out-of-the-box thinking, why couldn't I have been that smart? But so names do matter. And what we call ourselves as an industry matters, and we hold on to things like continuing care retirement community. It's comfortable, it's in all of our literature, but its time really has come to pass. And I do want to say that I'm a hostage in this process. When I first heard about NameStorm, I thought, well, that'll be interesting, but I wasn't interested. Then we were approached to hold a focus group, and I said, sure, that sounds great. And then the process came about, and I think it's been a great process.
Thank you for your involvement. Are you worried, Doug, about any confusion between life plan and life care?
That's a great question. For caveat, we're not a life care community, so you can, if you are a life care community, then I may not represent your thoughts on this, but I do want to say that I teach at York College long-term care administration about 4 times a year. I'm teaching directors of nursing, social workers, people who have been in the field for 10 years, people who have just graduated with a degree in long-term care administration. None of them know our terms. They all have to be educated to the terms. When I do marketing events with folks who come to Homestead Village thinking about moving to a life plan community, they don't know the terms. So I think from the inside the box, we see that as an issue, that this is going to be confusing. But to our consumers, to the next generation who are thinking about moving in the next few years, it won't be an issue at all.
Great. Sum up for us where you and your team at Homestead Village are right now on the issue of adopting life plan.
Well, when I first heard life plan community, I had probably the same response as most other people. Is that all? I mean, I was expecting something that was going to knock my socks off, and I get life plan community. But in reality, Chris has already sold it. I'm going to steal everything he said and implement it. We're in different markets, so it should be okay. You can send a letter from your lawyer. But the point is, it is really a great generic name for our industry. So we've started that process. I'm not sure what the next video is, or the next slide is. This really is talks about what other folks have talked about. Our ideal residents, they want to live their life, they want to have a great life, and they're planners. We really want the planners to move to our community because they're financially planned, they have a goal in life, and they're the best type of customer. So Life Plan really does fit the consumer that we're looking for. So I think the question is, Life Plan Community is already in use. If you go on the internet and Google it, you'll find that it's being used by a number of organizations. I think that for us, it was pretty much a natural to adopt that term early, as Chris said, because there's no danger in using that generic term as long as you caveat formerly a continuing care retirement community or otherwise known as a continuing care retirement community.
So you concur with Chris's advice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being early adopters of Life Plan.